All right, we're recording. What is this? Dinim 5? Dinim 5? Is this Dinim number 5?
Sounds right.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So we got James Rogers, my right-hand man here. If I'm not mistaken, I posted the link on YouTube, and it said Part 1. Did you guys cop that? Part 1.
No. It's on Soul Muzzle?
On the YouTube link. I called it Part 1. Yeah.
Oh.
And it was because last week we had theories going on. Did we not theorize last week? We had theories going on.
Yeah.
So I did my part. I did my research. And for those in South Africa listening, I even called my rabbi. and the usual response was he did not know the answer. We have a very big chiddush today. I'll tell you his answer. Jacques, you there? You listen to this? Type 1. My good mentor, Rabbi Trachman, I called him up and I told him my chiddush. And he did not say it was wrong, and he didn't disprove it. He said that's a really big chiddush. Meaning what we're about to bring down tonight, assuming it's true, then it changes the landscape of things. That's why the religious world isn't so fast to acknowledge a chiddush in halacha, because it changes things. So I'm not going to declare this as the law tonight. I'm going to, again, present it theoretical, but with solid backing. But as is all of our dinim, we are not a base din. This is a theory class of dinim. It always was from the get-go. Trying to look at din and see what the leeway is and possibilities and expansive directions of dinim. So we're definitely going to do that tonight. Jacques, are you there, type 1? And again, my colleague and mentor said, this is a powerful one. Very powerful. All right, so let's go. Yeah, you caught that, Jacques? I called my rabbi. And, you can, by way of reasoning, I told him this chiddush. He said, if that's true, that is a massive chiddush. He did not say that is not true, therefore it's not a chiddush. So by saying that it's a massive chiddush, it shows that he did not have a problem with the logic. Do you caught my logic on his logic, Jacques? 1 or 2? You caught this? Hello. 1, 2, 2, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1. There you go. All right, here we go. James Rogers, can you try to recall for us where we were last week? Can you give me a 1 or 2 sentence gist of last week?
We looked at not eating the blood, or not eating over the blood. I don't remember the passage right off. We also looked at Genesis 9 in the discussion of meat.
Yeah.
And 56b, was it? I have to look that up too.
It's in there. So here we go. We're going to pick up. It's like this. I told you that I was going to go away and look up all of the verses about eating blood, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, everyone should type 1 over there. So I did. I got my concordance. I looked up every verse that speaks about do not consume blood, which the counter missionaries say somehow that's Jesus. I still haven't figured that one out yet, but that's what they say. There's a lot of verses in the Torah about don't consume blood. I may have missed a couple. There's our notes everywhere, but here we go. If you just want to know, the Genesis 9:4 for Noah, Vayikra 3:17, 7:26, 7:27, 17:10, 17:12, 19:26. That's our verse. 17:14 in Devarim, 12:15 and 16, and 23 and 24, and actually 20, 21, 22, and 15:23. I looked up each one and identified the inyan, and it's kind of all the same inyan, but in Vayikra it's saying the blood, the dam nefesh. You all know that word, dam nefesh, right? It's the essential blood that squirts out of a proper shechted animal. It's the soul of the animal in the blood. In korbanos and offerings, the blood is the main thing. And that's actually, I guess, where they say Jesus comes in, right? He is the new blood. And then Tovi will say, no, the verse is not. Well, so the point is that a real offering is about the blood. So that's the whole counter-missionary thing. The verse in 17, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 tells you that the offering is all about the blood, and that's what brings you the atonement. And no, it has nothing to do with the church. It never did, just for those that want to know. Our verse is 19:26, and I'm going to focus on that in a minute. In Devarim, it's all about don't eat blood for different reasons. One is that the Klal Yisrael has been given meat that they can eat to their liking. Just don't eat the blood. That's a very, very basic gist. Okay. Now, also, last week, I was teaching all from memory last week, so I went back and double-checked everything. So this week, so far, this is factual. When it becomes hypothetical or theoretical, I'll tell you. It is a question among the rabbis if Aver min hachai. Does everybody know what Aver min hachai is? Anybody say two on that? Eating the limb of a live animal is called Aver min hachai. Aver, limb from min hachai, living. In the laws of Noach, Aver min hachai is obviously, right? As we've learned it in Noahide nations. Jewish Aver min hachai, that was where I started getting my brain going last week. The rabbis don't know what it is. Is it the blood only, or is it also the meat with the blood in it? So it's a question. And we explored the law in Chulin. I'm keeping it general on purpose because I'm going to go inside. And then we had a big kind of revelation about the non-Jew eating like a Jew. I'm keeping it vague. Now let's go inside and get specific. In no particular order, because there's a lot of facts here. In 1926, in Vayikra, this is the source for a Jew's command of Aver min hachai. Again, we don't know biblically if it's blood and meat or just blood. But it's irrelevant right now. The rabbis learn that it's rabbinic Aver min hachai for a Jew. It's not from the Torah. The only thing from the Torah is the blood. Okay? We're going to go along those lines. So how does a Jew eat the limb of a living animal and not be punished? What makes food kosher for a Jew is proper shechita, type 1. For a Noahide, killing the animal is sufficient, type 1. Therefore, you're never going to come to rip the leg off of a donkey, are you? Type 1 or type 2, whatever you type there. All right. So a Jew will also never eat the leg of a donkey, will he? Why will a Jew never eat the leg of a donkey? James Rogers.
The animal isn't kosher.
That's not why. It's one reason why. What's the other reason why? It has to be an animal that is killed with a proper shechita.
Right.
I would never slit the throat of a donkey. There's no point, right?
Right.
Okay. So now I am a shochet, and I kill a kosher animal, or I slaughter, bring to death a kosher animal. Let's keep that vernacular going. Noahides kill, Jews experience death. Remember that? Stoning and the sword? Because it works in the slaughtering the animals as well. So the animal is put to death as opposed to the animals killed. I want to keep that lingo going because it's very powerful. So we put the animal to death, but the soul didn't go out all the way. I then cut a piece of the meat in the proper spot. I wash it well and I salt it well. I was allowed as a Jew to eat the limb of a living animal in a prescribed way. Is that correct?
That always kind of that terminology always bothered me. I find it very confusing. If the blood was
because a shechted animal is already considered kosher. You see what I'm saying?
But once it's once it's koshered, it's still considered living. I mean, if you're eating meat from a living animal,
I'm going to blow your mind, James Rogers. Do you want your mind blown?
Always.
There's a case in the Talmud. I buy a cow off of you, okay? And I went to pay for it, and you said she's over in the valley. Go get her. I went, and she gave birth. So I come back to you, and I said, hey, James, I'm just letting you know I'm going to take my baby calf as well. You said, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. You said, no, you're not. I said, yes, I am. You said, no, you're not. And I said, why? You said, because it's mine. I said, it's mine. I said, look, man, I got it from you at 3 o'clock, and it was already birth. You said, you're a liar. It's impossible. Why? Because you say, I went into the meadow at 2:45, and she was dilated 5 centimeters. It is impossible that she gave birth in the time that you bought the cow. Look, James, I'm telling you, I went and it was out. No, it wasn't. She could not have given birth in 15 minutes. James, I'm telling you a reality. I'm telling you a reality. Cows don't give birth in 15 minutes. I am what's called Bari Tov. I am really sure. You're also called Bari Grua. You're pretty sure too, but a different kind of sure. So the Talmudic law is we split the value of the cow. You caught my reasoning there?
Yes.
So there are some things called pshat, emes, reality, whatever you want to call it. Another one is called obvious or pshuto. Okay? I'm telling you that a shechted cow is called kosher and slaughtered. It is obvious. When you slit the neck of a cow, he is considered dead, correct?
Correct.
But there are weird circumstances in the world that you could come at me with a very strange logical conclusion. So we don't go in law by strange things. If I was to do a mitzvah, but aliens from Mars kidnap me, right? Can we predict aliens from Mars will kidnap us? No. So the Jewish law doesn't take into account Mars and aliens. There's weird things that happen all the time. So what the Rabbanim have done is they conclude with general swooping things. James, you stole my wallet on a Tuesday. You know why you're guilty? Because guys that steal on Tuesday are guilty. So how do you know it was me? Because it was on Tuesday. So it's a thing in the Talmud. Do you get into people's kishkes and analyze to the nth degree? Or do you just call it like a rule, a law? For those in the Mishlei class, it's mishpat and tzedek. Mishpat is, it's a law. You slit the throat of a cow, he's called dead. Or you can say tzedek. I'll give you an example. My friend is a shochet. And he said, you know, how many chickens do you think they shecht in an hour in these big factories? Go ahead and give me a guess. James, vocalize. How many?
I'll go with Aaron. He says 1,500.
I don't know what that equals out to be, but I think it's almost every second, I think, or something. It's pretty quick. It's like all the time, constant. Now that's a rabbinic hechsher. There's something called mahadran, which means you really you hold the chicken, make the blessing, really focus the knife, check it out, right? So now you know that's kosher. It's mahadran. The other one is rabbanut. It's kosher. Now, in our system here of rabbanut and mahadran, what are the chances of the mahadran being bona fide kosher from the store? Around 100%?
I would say I would trust it. Yeah, 99%.
Right. And the rabbanut one? Maybe 60-40?
That's generous. Yeah, I would go for that.
Okay, but what the Misa, what's going to happen is Jewish people are going to be eating treif and they don't know it. Correct?
Correct.
So Jewish law doesn't freak out at that. Jewish law says there is wisdom in the world that you can know better. I'm a Cohen. And the law of a Cohen is he should marry a woman with strong family background. Why? Because otherwise she might say she's kosher, but is she? Now, what are we going to do? Are we going to check her records, like DNA test? I mean, how are you going to check? How would you know a woman's personal history? You don't. So this is why Torah and religion is not a perfect science. If a guy converted and in the mikveh, he's praising Jesus, how would anybody know? No one knows. You have to assume the guy is Jewish, and when it gets funny and revealed, you're going to say, what happened? So here, we shechted the cow. It's kosher. You understand now why it's kosher?
Yes.
But it doesn't change the fact that the dam nefesh is coming out of the cow's throat. So you have a rabbinic problem on rabbinics. So the Torah gives you a solution. Cut the meat, wash off the blood. Remember, the prohibition is on the blood and not the meat for a Jew. So now, is there any problem here with Rabbi Kornfeld and what he's doing? No. So the Jew is allowed to eat the limb of a living animal, as a Noahide would see it, right, Eric Bryan? Calling something from Klippa in the realm of Kedusha, correct? The Klippa doesn't have the permission to call the Jewish holiness a limb of a living animal. You understand why I'm putting it that way? Because the non-Jew, it's not his mitzvah. That's like saying that I can rebuke Tom Hanks for his poor acting. Not my position. Not my place. I don't know what they do. So here we go. Now we're caught up to real speed. Ready? The Talmud offers, again, for the sources, look at last week's year. The Talmud says nothing that is permitted for a Jew is forbidden for the Akum, even an Akum. So the Akum wants to eat at the David Katz barbecue, type 1. At my barbecue, we have weird mazel, and the animal didn't die. Not the right way. So Johnny Viakum, he wants to have part of the steak with me, right? Type 1. But isn't it forbidden for Johnny Viakum to eat at my house? Because he would be transgressing limb of a living animal, would he not? But wouldn't you think isn't the Havamina he would be transgressing? His Torah tells him no limb of a living animal. Type 1. Johnny cannot have a hamburger with me. All right? It's forbidden. For him, we will punish him for limb of a living animal while I eat my limb of a living animal. Type 1. But there's something in Noahide Law called Dinim. You ever hear Dinim? 7th Noahide Law called Dinim? So the Dinim state retroactively on Johnny what he's able to eat. In the Noahide Law of Dinim, Dinim is like a portal. It also allows the Noahide to transfer dinim into Jewish dinim, according to the laws of dinim. You understand that? Let's pretend that somebody robbed the U.S. Embassy in Cairo. So it comes out that they give the criminal a choice to be tried according to American law because it was in the embassy. Or, come on, you know where you really were. You were in Egypt. We can be tried according to Egyptian law. Or better yet, how about you are born from American parents in Canada? How about that? And in Canada, you do a sin and you're given a choice to be extradited to America or to be punished in Canada. Type 1. Right? You have your choice. You have a dual citizenship as dinim is concerned. Because there's something called a Jew in the world and a non-Jew in the world. And sometimes we have to work together. Right? Sometimes we just have to work together. What happens if you end up in my house on Shabbos? Should I kick you out? Should I throw you out? Should I kick the goy to the curb? Because isn't that what the Torah is saying? No goyim allowed. No, we're saying the Torah is not black and white. It's a merciful Torah. There's no black and white in Torah. We don't anticipate Martian landings, do we? We don't anticipate Martians. So the goy ended up at my house for all intents and purposes. And he could leave if he wanted to. Or he could say, hey, I'm here for Shabbos. So you know what? I guess I'm not going to use your microwave, Rabbi Katz. That goy all of a sudden becomes Ger Torah in your gate. Doesn't he? Goy is just another term for akum or nachri. So all of a sudden, the derogatory and the vulgarness can become halachic positions of where we're at. That's only possible through dinim. All the labels and statuses that people claim that we're giving them, which is false, are levels of dinim in observance. Type 1 on that one. Nice big one. You're not a goy, you're not an nachri, you're not an akum, you're not a ger this, you're not a ger that. You are a human. In halacha, though, you are referred to as certain things. We all are. If I go against the Torah, I'm also called a nachri. So what's the difference? So now, Johnny Akum wants to have a hamburger with Rabbi Katz, right? And I say, Johnny Akum, it's forbidden to you. Why? Limb of a living animal. He says, Rabbi Katz, is it not forbidden to you? You are also not to eat the limb of a living animal. I say, Johnny Akum, I do eat the limb of a living animal. I just can't eat the blood. I'm Jewish, and God did not forbid me the limb as he forbade you. Because I don't kill my animals. I put them to death. Right? Therefore, God warned me in the Torah, you can eat. Rabbi Katz, you can eat. But please don't eat the blood because that's what atones on the altar. Type 1. Rabbi Katz, you need to be very strong about that blood. If you get the blood wrong, you're in trouble. Now, God says in the Torah, by the way, Rabbi Katz, since you're Jewish, you can eat meat to the max. In fact, it's a mitzvah on the holidays to eat meat. That is a verse, by the way, Devarim 12:20 through 22 and 12:15. The Jewish people are given meat. Why? Why were we given meat? You're going to love this. Why is the Jew given his fill in meat? It's called the kingdom of priests, the holy temple, where you eat meat. Exactly. The temple elevates it. So the temple is a proper slaughterhouse. Elevation. Johnny Occam tells Rabbi Katz, I choose to eat meat with you. As long as you, Rabbi Katz, checked it and I, Johnny Occam, didn't, I'm allowed to eat the limb of a living animal like a Jew, even though I'm not Jewish, and it was forbidden on Noahides, type 1. Now here's the amazing Chiddush. You ready for the amazing Chiddush? This is the game-changing Chiddush here. There's a verse 17, like 11 through 14. Those verses that the counter-missionaries say it's all about Jesus, which, again, I still haven't figured out why they have to go there.
What chapter?
Vayikra 17, starting from 10, I think, through 14.
Okay.
I just have to, taunt a little bit the counter-missionaries because there's no reason to bring Jesus in this. I just don't cop that. Anyways, it says there, what's the actual verse? Let me tell you. It's 17. 17.
10?
Yeah, but there's another one a little later. 1 second. 13. Every man of Israel. Wait, no. 12. Wait. Yeah, 12. Therefore I say to the children of Israel, every soul from y'all, don't eat the blood, and the ger who dwells in your midst, also don't eat the blood. So I'm saying over the years, this is a problem, because why are you telling the ger not to eat blood? A convert is a Jew. Should the ger keep kosher like a Jew? That was my thought over the years. That's hard to say, since the entire mitzvah of Ger Toshav is around non-kosher nevela, right? Very problematic. Here's the Chiddush. Who wants to hear a Chiddush of a lifetime? This is a Gevaldik Chiddush. When Johnny Occam is in Occam land, he cannot eat Aver Menachai type 1. Let me hear say hallelujah, amen.
Hallelujah, amen.
When Johnny Occam goes to Rabbi Katz's house, Rabbi Katz is eating Aver Menachai in the allowable way. Johnny Occam eats with Rabbi Katz. Johnny Occam is very smart. He says to Rabbi Katz like this: Rabbi Katz, when I was in Occam land, I could not eat Aver Menachai. But since there's a law in your Torah that whatever is given to a Jew around the law, the Noahide can also do, am I allowed to eat Aver Menachai with you? Rabbi Katz says yes. Rabbi Katz, however, will not be eating blood because the Torah told Rabbi Katz, do not eat blood. Johnny Occam says that's a Jewish prohibition, and I'm not Jewish. I, Johnny Occam, am going to eat the blood of Aver Menachai. Thank you. But the Torah tells Johnny Occam, when you were eating Rabbi Katz's burger, mutter, allowable, Aver Menachai, the verse said the ger and the Jew do not eat blood. So when you began to eat the limb of a living animal, you are now not called Johnny Occam, you're called ger. Why? Because the ger cannot eat the blood, and as long as you're eating with Rabbi Katz in this meal, it's called the ger with the native. You cannot eat blood, but you can eat the limb of a living animal. Hallelujah, amen. What do you guys think about that, Svara?
Is it because we can, if we do it right, we can guarantee a kosher slaughter kills the animal?
No.
However, when a non-Jew No.
The Jews got to slaughter it.
Right.
I think you missed the chachma. Let me tell you again. Johnny, pay attention. Johnny Occam slipped out of the limb of a living animal with a loophole. Is that correct, James Rogers?
I'm still working on it, but I'm going to say yes for purposes of discussion. One.
But not for discussion. Hear it out. His Noahide law tells him no limb of a living animal, correct?
It's not. Is it? I don't know if it's not worded like that in Genesis 9, though. Is it?
Irrelevant. We're talking classic Noahide law. A Noahide cannot eat the limb of a living animal, correct?
That's what they call it, right?
Right. The Jew, we find out, can eat the limb of a living animal in a prescribed way, correct?
Right.
The Jew Torah also has a law that which is allowable for a Jew, even an akum, can become allowable, correct? In the way the Jew can.
Correct.
Okay, so Johnny Akum is going to eat the limb of a living animal, correct?
Correct.
Okay. The Jew has no fear of this because the Jew says, I love the limb of the living animal, but I will not eat the blood because the Torah told me not to. Correct?
Correct.
Johnny Akum will say, well, Rabbi Katz, can I have the blood then? The Torah only told you, the Jew, not to eat the blood. I'm Johnny Akum. Can I have the blood too?
Didn't
Correct?
God tell everybody not to eat the blood, to pour it into the ground?
That we're under the assumption that this is only a Jewish law. Remember, Johnny Akum is in Jewish land here, okay?
Right.
Play it out. Trust me, it'll work. All right, with me? Say yes.
Yes, I'm with you.
So then Rabbi Katz says, Johnny Akum, you can't eat blood. Johnny Akum says, why? The Torah only said to the Jews not to eat blood. Never said Johnny Akum, Goy Nachri, not to eat the blood. Say yes, James Rogers.
Yes, James Rogers.
Rabbi Katz told Johnny Akum, did the verse Johnny Akum say only the Jew doesn't eat the blood? Or did it also say the Ger amongst you also doesn't eat the blood? Oh, so I'm a Ger. Yes, Johnny Akum, when you use your Dinim to elevate out of Akum land, because when you ate limb of a living animal, that's forbidden for Akum. So you're no longer Akum on this individual action. You were actually called a Ger. That's how you were able to do the Jewish law of eating the limb of a living animal like a Ger. And the Torah told the Ger, by the way, when you eat the limb of a living animal, don't eat the blood. With me? Where are you holding, James?
I'm hearing it through.
Where's the sticking spot?
The sticking spot is man was prohibited from eating blood from the get-go, whether it was Adam or Noah. So it doesn't really. I know we call it limb of a living animal, but the wording in Genesis.
Okay, so here's where you're missing it.
All right.
Okay. Johnny Akum does not have a commandment on him called "Don't eat the limb of a living animal." You understand that?
Yes.
That's why he thought a Havamina he could eat the blood. He thought, I'm in limbo land. I'm not a Jew and I'm not an Akum. Therefore, I can eat blood. You chop?
If we're only looking at this one particular
That's
passage.
all we're talking about. Johnny Akum found himself, I'll give you a perfect example, James Rogers. When I become a NASA astronaut, do I have to daven?
I would think so.
You don't know the famous joke? Moshe Kleineman was an astronaut for NASA. And they said, Moshe Kleineman, how does it feel to be the first Yiddish astronaut? He says, it was horrible. Moshe Kleineman, it wasn't horrible. You saw Earth. He says, Earth, Schmirth. Every 5 minutes, Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv, Shachris Mincha Ma'ariv. So you don't have to daven in space because the Torah commandments are not bound by space or aliens kidnapping us. Okay? So Johnny Occam became a Martian. He said, the Rabbi Katz on Facebook says it's all about statuses. That's what they say. And I'm not an Occam, I'm not a Nachri, and I'm not a Jew. I guess I can basically transgress. There's no 7 laws over me, and I didn't convert. That's what he thinks. It's a Havamina. You got that? He thinks that. The Torah is coming to tell Johnny Occam, the Torah never said go just kill people or whatever you do. You're called a ger in this scenario because you were eating like a Jew. But you're not a Jew, you're a ger. You ate like a ger and you didn't do the blood like a ger. You caught now? Yeah. Now, I'll tell you where I made this mistake. You know, the first time I ever got interested in Noahide Law, we were in the lunchroom in yeshiva, and I went to Daf Yomi, the Talmud every day, and they said that there's no Ger Toshav today. And I got in a fight in the lunchroom, and I said, yeah, the 7 laws of Noah are not bound today. My friend Laser said, are you an idiot? I said, what, are you calling Rabbi Silver a liar? There's no Ger Toshav today. Ger Toshav is a Noahide. The 7 laws of Noah are not operative today. He said, that is about the dumbest thing I ever heard. I said, I'm telling you. He said there's no 7 laws of Noah today. So I asked Rabbi Silver, and this is years ago, and he said, no, just because there's no Ger Toshav today doesn't mean the non-Jews don't have an obligation to the 7 laws of Noah. You caught that? So just because Johnny Occam removed the 7 laws from himself, he removed them. You are not bound by the 7 laws, people. You have chosen the 7 laws for yourself. There's always a law on you, James Rogers. You have decided the 7 laws are what are on you. That is your decision. If you want 613, convert, no problemo. If you want whatever law you want, there's a way to do it. Whatever is allowed for Israel is allowed for an Occam as well. So when Johnny Occam, who was born into Occamville, that's right, okay, so everyone's obligated. Johnny Occam, he found a loophole that he thought he was no longer obligated. The Torah is saying, Johnny Occam, you're never unobligated. You just elevated to a higher obligation when you decided to eat Rabbi Katz's hamburger. You got elevated to Johnny Ger. And Johnny Ger, who can eat the limb of a living animal, unlike Johnny Occam, but Johnny Ger cannot consume the blood. Where are you standing, James Rogers?
I'm getting, yeah, it's starting to come together, I think.
Yeah. So it's all about the flow. Right? Because you people are not static. You're gonna flow. Now, you know what happens, James, when I have you over my house and I have a casket of wine, okay? Are you allowed to guard my wine?
I would say yes.
Why? You're an Occam. It's idolatrous wine and you're gonna get me killed.
Well, you're a nice guy, and I'll guard your wine for you.
Can't. You're an Occam. It's idolatrous wine. You're going to get me killed. Ah, but that's if it's James Occam. James the Ger, anyone who does not transgress the 7 laws of Noah, doesn't even have to accept the 7 laws of himself. Just don't kill anybody. That's considered Ger Toshav according to Rav Aaron Soloveitchik, and now it is kosher wine. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You're no longer an Occam. When you're guarding my wine, you're not an Occam. All through life, you go through positions. Really, I'm a Nachri. When there's a law of Torah that I'm unaware of, and I am against the Torah, technically I'm acting like a Nachri. Until you know the whole Torah. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The Baal Tshuva is called a Ger. Because you can't taunt him. Yesterday you were in treif, today you're Jewish. The statuses and labels that they want to say that I'm putting on people is bogus. It's halachic coordinate. Where are you? God yelled to Adam, where are you? Eric, that's an example of using chachma to deliver a point, which was not present last night. Man, wish that would have been present. Okay, so you're only 7 laws of Noah when you are in certain coordinates.
Okay.
You're unaware of all the other things you are when the other coordinates, just like everybody on the planet, we're unaware of what we are. When I went to America, really, I'm a ger. I'm a stranger. I'm a sojourner. You have a mitzvah to love me. I mean, it's crazy. So the idea is we think we're locked in and static, and you're not, right? And you're going to be super frum and say, whoa, Rabbi Katz, I can't eat your hamburger because I'm Johnny Occam. That's ridiculous, Johnny Occam. Be a ger. You have the 7th Noahide Law, Dinim, that allows you to elevate through Dinim in the Klal Yisrael Dinim. Just don't eat the blood like Israel Dinim. The Torah said you're not Johnny Occam, you're Johnny Ger. You follow? All right. Now, when you elevate out of Occam and into Ger, for whatever reason, and we're going to discuss the reasons, that is the famous, and I hope Jacques on here, but this is what you guys know about the covenant. Everybody wants to know, is the non-Jew part of the covenant of Sinai, right? So the answer is, how do you get into the covenant? So this is what the Sifri says. When you are in Ger elevated mode, out of Occam mode, that's called the Ger of the covenant. You got that? That's a covenant Ger. So how does somebody put themselves in the covenant all the time? By taking on the 7th Noahide Law, which is called Dinim. You guys ever hear Dinim? But you sanctify your Dinim, one of your 7, and you say, you accept on yourself, says the Brisker Rav, I, in whatever language you want to say, my Dinim, again, whatever version you want to say it in, I'll say it in paraphrase, my Dinim are kosher with Jewish Dinim. In potential. What you're really saying is, I'm not against eating a hamburger with Rabbi Katz. You got that? Me, Johnny Occam, even though generally I'm prohibited from Rabbi Katz's hamburger, I am open to the possibilities of eating the strange hamburger with Rabbi Katz. I take on myself every case of my Dinim potentially being elevated to Klal Yisrael Dinim. Anybody who does that is part of the covenant. That's Ger. It's called the Ger of the covenant. What do you think about that, James Rogers?
I like it. It makes sense.
That's it. So then when you are fastidious and you say, look, Rabbi Katz, I like you and your Dinim, but I really, look, I'm just saying, Avram Menachai is my mitzvah. I don't want to eat your hamburger. I say, okay, James, or Johnny Occam here, you are not in the covenant with me on my hamburger. You're Johnny Occam. So therefore, eat your hamburger as an Occam. I will eat my hamburger as a Jew. If you still want to guard my wine later on, I'm all into it. Which is another way of saying, you don't have to leave Johnny Occam. You can hang out, and then my wine doesn't become treif because Johnny Ger is hanging out with me watching the football game. Right? It's a technical, halachic way of interpreting reality, but in reality, it's James and Rabbi David Katz, or whatever you say, right? It's a halachic way of viewing reality to know, are we doing what is holy and good, or are we just being vulgar and in klippa and bringing Hashem down? We want to elevate the world. I mean, there is a what do you call it? Expectation to keep with Torah. There's a level of fear of God. Now, there's reasons why. It's called a chok, an unknown reason. The reason why we're afraid of our ger friends around wine. If I put my wine in Johnny Occam's house, who's to say Uncle Fred, the momish idolater, won't do something funny to the wine? Can we all envision Uncle Fred? Uncle Fred might do something to the wine. In my house, Uncle Fred's not coming over. So I don't have a problem with Johnny Ger. Johnny Ger is a good guy. But man, when Johnny Ger goes to Johnny Occam, I don't want Uncle Fred hanging out with my wine. Look, Johnny Ger, I love you, man, but Uncle Fred is kind of freaky. All right? He's kind of freaky. He's not coming over for Shabbos to use my microwave. But if you want to be Johnny Ger in my house, mi casa, su casa. All right. So now we've given the chiddush that has changed the universe. And it is under the concept that which is made allowable to a Jew is not prevented to the non-Jew. Notice the language here. We are not saying all that is allowed to the Jew is allowed for the non-Jew. Can you hear the difference? This is where you got to look close. We're saying there's made allowed and just given. Totally different worlds. The idea is I was not given something that you want. The bottom line is God never said no to the limb of a living animal. For me, right? I wasn't given anything. All that happened was God said to David Katz, hey, Davo, you're going to think that you cannot eat that meat. Guess what? You can eat it. It's allowed. You see that? Because if the blood could not come off the meat, it's eating the limb of a living animal. God said, hey, boys and girls, Jews, I'm going to let you wash off the blood. Then you can eat it. Oh, so it's allowed. It's a heter. Anything that comes from heter, allowed, is allowed by the non-Jew. Because there's a portal called Dinim. Now, if I would have said, my mitzvahs are your mitzvahs, that's not what happened. This is not a jailbreak, which people have been known to do, but they will remain nameless. What we're saying is when there's a path of wisdom, that wisdom does not leave out the non-Jew from the goodness of God. But there's a prescribed way of doing it. We said the Jew's got to do the shechting, and it's got to be a kosher animal. So the allowance was given to Israel, and the non-Jew can partake of the allowance. The Sifri commentary says you can't just make blanket statements. The Jew was given the Yafet Toar, the slave women who were captured of war. That was given to Israel. They're allowed to Israel. We can get a captured person, blah, blah, blah. Does that mean now the non-Jews can go capture women like the ISIS people? So not only no, not only is it a different deal, but the answer is actually yes. How do you like me now? You guys shocked a little bit? How is it possible? You hear what I'm saying? Yes, the non-Jew can get captured women of war. You hear this? You guys shocked? Who wants an explanation? How many of you have ever heard of the Cohen Gadol? No, Eric Bryan, it is illegal in that respect. How many of you have heard of the Cohen Gadol? How many of you remember the story in Bamidbar, chapter 31, I think, with the Yafet Toar, captive women? Pinchas led the war and was there with the captured women. How many of you are aware that a Cohen Gadol is allowed to marry the captive women of war? Therefore, how does the Ger partake where the Jew can partake? The Jew can marry the Ger woman. She's no longer called Donna Achim. She's called Donna Ger. How you like me now? So what we're seeing is in all of the mitzvahs and all of the allowances for Israel, the Ger is not separate and left out as Achim. Because Eric Bryan said there's a seventh Noahide law called Dinim, which is a portal to Israel Dinim. You can always elevate. But it has to come through the prescription of wisdom and proper allowance. No, the Jew cannot marry a shiksa. But the Jew can marry a proper Ger through proper ways when the Torah allows it. Today we're in exile, blah, blah, blah. That's right, it is. Therefore, just like we say, every Ger of the Torah has to be looked at uniquely as a Ger Tzedek, Ger Toshev, every action of Israel, mitzvah, halacha, minhag, blah, the non-Jew is always there. On Shabbos, are you a Shabbos goy? Are you a Nachri? Are you an apostate? Are you a Ger Toshev Eved, Ger Toshev Seicher, Ger Toshev Tzaddik? What are you? Only you know. Only you know. But chances are we're going to be working together. As long as the Jew leads the way, then it's fine. In the right way. That doesn't mean you go your way, Rabbi Cecil, and we go our way, and you do your thing. Doesn't work that way. Otherwise, it's called Johnny Achim. And guess what? If you want to be Johnny Achim, because what the hey, be Johnny Achim. You want to be Johnny Ger? Then it's routed through Israel. Fourth house of Israel. Because that's what it is. It's Nilva Ger. It's attached to Israel. Cohen Levi Israel Ger. Who does the shechting? Israel. But mind you, the Ger can do a kosher shechita. Once you're functioning no longer as Johnny Achim, the Rambam says Johnny Ger can do the shechita. You can elevate. Don't think you can't. It just has to be done with wisdom, the proper way, not dodgy and not vulgar. It's godliness, for crying out loud. Is the world we live in any different? If I hire you to do a job, can you just slap it together because you're not telling me what to do? A man holds the door open for a woman, does he not? So no one's complaining about that. He's not complaining. Why doesn't he complain about his rights? You should open the door for me. Let's get things straight. You hold that door open for me. No one says that. Because there's something called derech eretz. I can make a hamburger at McDonald's probably better than the kid in the kitchen. I'm pretty sure about that. Does that give me the right to go make my hamburgers? So get out of the way. You're a 15 idiot kid with braces. Move. Derech eretz. Yeah, it's taking you 10 minutes longer, pal. Not a big deal. Not a big deal. I could even get a job at McDonald's if I want to. If I'm really pressed about getting my Big Mac, I probably could get hired at McDonald's. I'm pretty sure I could. Maybe even get manager. If I'm that pressed. So the question is, why are you so pressed? Just partake in the holiness and godliness. I mean, what's the issue? You shouldn't be so pressed. So now the challenge is, let's look back over the class a little bit. There's a lot of verses about consuming blood, the prohibition of. We know the eating of blood. The ger is involved. The akum can eat outside of his laws. He elevates the ger through dinim. Through this concept of that which is allowed. Jewish living animal is pretty much only the blood. The rabbis are not sure if it's the meat also, because when it's put to death, the animal, it's called kosher shechita, at least b'diavad. And we're not saying that all mitzvahs the Jew, just the non-Jew can do. It has to come through kosher prescription. So again, it is illegal to keep Shabbos in this world. Only Israel can keep Shabbos. And I put it that way in the times of like Abraham, right? The question that was asked, how did Abraham keep Shabbos if Ben Noah couldn't? So back in his time, they would have said, wow, we can't keep Shabbos. Only Israel can keep Shabbos. Because there's a concept, and you'll hear in my Ramdu class next week, there's a higher Israel, right? I'm not higher Israel. Above me in the higher worlds, there's a higher Israel. So what we're saying is, hold on, I'm going to try my thought. One second. Lost my train of thought. No. Wait. When Abraham wants to do Shabbos, there was no such thing as the Jewish Shabbos. It was forbidden. I guess you could say it's, imagine, look, we've done everything because where we are in time. Remember, Adam couldn't eat meat. Type 1 on that. Adam could not eat meat. Type 1 on that. But Adam knew one day people will eat meat. Cop that? Noahides had a limitation on meat. And then one day the Jews going to come and eat meat. Do you realize that they lived in a world where they anticipated spiritual liberty? So there was something to look forward to. Jacob, giving birth to 12 tribes, knew that one day there would be a Jewish people. Abraham, Shem, Noah all worked towards a Jewish people. You know what? I'll tell you what it is now. You want to know what we're looking forward to now? Who knows? What are we doing right now that Jacob did fathering 12 tribes? Anyone know? We are laying the foundation of the future ger. If that's not profound, I don't know what to tell you. Right now, we are laying the foundation that one day the planet Earth will be ger and learning these inyanim. Is that profound or what? Right now, there's no ger, halachically, and one day there's going to be. And we're looking forward to it. We have a tradition of it through Torah. So, you have to be, Israel was born into a world that it became allowable to keep Shabbos. You got that? It was forbidden to keep Shabbos. I don't know why. I mean, imagine 4,000 years ago, oh, don't do that. Why? Well, one day the Jews are going to do that, so we can't do that. That discussion happened, right? So the Jew came down, and at Sinai, God said, hey, boys and girls, I'm going to let you keep Shabbos. You people, I'm going to let you keep Shabbos. There's a spiritual Jew. You guys are going to receive from that power. You are Jewish. Well, us? Yeah, you're allowed. So now, that which is made allowable to Israel, Johnny Akum can do it too. But we learned the principles with Johnny Akum. It has to be a kosher slaughter and a kosher animal. So therefore, the Jews keep Shabbos with a malacha, and the ger keeps ger Shabbos Krisis 9a. Meaning, the Jew is the one entering mitzvah territory. He's your trailblazer. God is allowing for him. God is parting the sea, pun intended, for him. Johnny Akum is not told to remain an Akum. Johnny Yaakov, that's right. That's a preparation for the journey. The Israel also is preparing the journey for Johnny Yaakov. Johnny Yaakov is supposed to keep Shabbos, but the Jew leads the journey. Firstborn son, right? Double portion. Johnny Yaakov has a position to fill. Don't think he doesn't, as Johnny Ger, should he wish to fulfill his seventh Noahide Law of Dinim. It's setting a precedent. How many of you guys ever hear the mitzvah, honor your parents? You know why? Because your parents were here before you, weren't they? So don't you kind of have to do everything the way your parents say on some level? No matter how rebellious you are? Is it possible for you to say, I am 100% different than my parents, I'm doing it my way? Impossible. You're a liar. You would be a liar. You inherited it from them. It's impossible. It's where God put us. The Jew was put as the trailblazer in mitzvahs. That's his job. I'm talking about in creation. The Ger is coming into it. Will I know wrestling better than my wrestling coach? No. By definition, I was brought into it. It's just, you can't undo the guy that taught it to you, so to speak. You just can't. It's right. It's not. It's exactly it. The wisdom is given is not yours. Period. So once the Jew is discovering his allowances, I am Jewish and I can keep Shabbat. Let's say I find that out. Now it opens that portal for the Ger, for Johnny Yaakov to elevate his Johnny Ger. For every mitzvah, every law, every heter. When the Jew, remember we talked about last night, Eric Bryan, the Shephet coming down through Atzilus? As the Shephet comes down, we discover worlds. Like water filling a pool. As the Jew finds the mercy of God in Dinim, discovering what he can do. See, I wouldn't think to eat the limb of a living animal, would I? But if I discover that I'm able to, I can actually make Gerim and liberate the world. Because if I discover what God gave me, simply for the sake of heaven, Johnny Yaakov can become Johnny Ger and accentuate his dinim and his portal to become part of Din Yisrael, Bris Yisrael. That's why the theoretical realm works. Oh, but there's no Ger Toshav Day, Rabbi Katz, because there's no Jubilee. Well, guess what? Learn about it. All you got to do is learn the dinim, and the portal's open. Because at the end of the day, I'm not eating meat cut from a living animal. I hate to tell you. You're not eating that hamburger with me. And I don't expect to tell you that you can't eat the blood. But what we can do is open our minds, expand consciousness, and you can stop seeing yourself as Johnny Yaakov and elevate into a human being who is with God. That's what you can do. But if we don't discover the Dinim and the Torah, then everyone's Johnny Yaakov. Because that's what the default button says. Right? The answer is no until you ask a question. So I'll give you this for homework. The meditation. And I want you guys to watch last night's class at King David's tomb, where this concept came down. The Parsha Shavua. For every Jewish mitzvah, or halacha, whatever. Imagine the Jew trailblazing it, okay? And this is the chef of the Rizal, filling out all the, and bring in the dinim. Man, this is all theoretical. Bring in the dinim. Make it harsh. And as long as there's an avenue, you can still do it. Right? But let's say it's very difficult to do something. Let's say it's very difficult to say the Shema Because you got to say it at 8 o'clock, and not 8:05, and not 7:55, only on Tuesday, and only if it's Bob. Wow, that's a hard mitzvah, man. Wow. Guys named Bob are pretty lucky. Woof. So now that Bob gets to do the Shema only. You follow my example here? He's a trailblazing Jew named Bob. Not many people get to do that mitzvah. It turns out the secret name of Jews are all Bob. So all the Jews can do this mitzvah, but they have to call themselves Bob. This is why you see every Tuesday in a synagogue, every Jew calls his friend Bob. Hey, Bob. Yeah, Bob. Bob. Hey, Bob. 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 Hey, Bob. And Johnny Akka was watching and saying, man, I would like to say the Shema too. Johnny Akka, you can do it. You need to follow Bob. So Johnny Akka would realize how to follow Bob. But Bob remains Bob. Johnny Akka was not Bob. Johnny Akka was Johnny Ger, following Bob. Whatever the law would be. Right? The Torah said, Bob says the Shema standing, but Johnny Ger says the Shema sitting. But Johnny Akka never got invited because he's not Bob at all. In fact, the 9th Noahide Law is that all Johnny Akka cannot say Shema, type 1. It is illegal for Johnny Akka to serve God. Once Johnny Akka follows Bob, he realizes how to do it. You see what I'm saying? You learn. This is why. What does the Rambam say, Eric, in Hilchos Malachim 10:10? You do the Ben Noach does a mitzvah for the rest of the mitzvahs of the Torah, kehilchaso, like the law, and you only have that liberty because of Dinim. So bring the Dinim in, as many as possible, says Paraduma teaching, because it's theoretical, and it turns the Rachamim anyways. What it does is it creates a physical construct from the Dinim. You want it narrow. You want it narrow. It's called makshava, the mind, focus. Then you see the path, how Johnny Akka elevates to Johnny Ger. Now that Johnny Ger is through the thing, the Dinim go away. Because he has Din Yisrael. So he keeps the thing itself. But the restriction was to find the portal exactly how to enter. Because we don't want sloppy learning here. We're not just making a jailbreak. Hey, come on in, boys. It's got to be done with wisdom. Okay, hilchaso. The bottom line is it's about the din of Ger Toshav. Once you follow the pathway of learning and wisdom and thought of din shel Ger Toshav, now you can erase thinking only of Johnny Akka. And the more din Ger Toshav you find, and it's because it's so narrow and focused, it's a mitzvah. It's something to find. It's gold. It's equity. It's confirmation. If you have 20 of those, imagine 20 solid dinim where you are no longer Johnny Akka but Johnny Ger. Is that not awesome? That starts to make a super conscious position. That's right. Because you only became Johnny Ger because of the wisdom that allowed it. Imagine each wisdom like this thing for every mitzvah you did. Imagine that. If let's say you did 50 mitzvahs that you did kehilchaso, elevating Johnny Akka to Johnny Ger, and the wisdom you would have from each of those mitzvahs. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. And it's all theoretical. You're never going to actually come to Rabbi Katz's house and eat the limb of a living animal. But such is Jewish law. I will never do a lot of Jewish laws. Talmud study is theoretical. Dinim are theoretical. But they're real. They're possible. They're here. They're in this world. It's a boon of the wisdom. Remember we were talking about the paraduma last night, right? Once in a blue moon, there's actually a paraduma. But learning the wisdom of it exists because there's a spiritual place in reality called the Kedusha, the holiness of a Pardua. There's a world of eating the limb of a living animal the right way. You can't deny the reality of it, but you don't have to go and do it either. I can learn the laws of returning a stolen good. Should I steal from you so I know how to do it? No. But understand that the spiritual learning and wisdom does exist. So I'll close with this. There are 7 laws of Noah. And we learn here you can leave them all behind. You can turn Dinim into elevated Dinim. You can turn living limb into a higher living limb. You can turn the immorality of Jew-Ger marriage into Yafet Torah. That's right, with wisdom. Only with wisdom. And where it's the right way up with Israel. I don't know how it works with murder. You have to meditate. How does Johnny Occam, bound by his 7 laws, elevate to Johnny Ger through the wealth of permissibility of Israel? For example, again, it's got to be a kosher slaughtered animal by a Jew until one becomes Johnny Ger Mamish. That's a different story. That's it, one day at a time. But you can now start to think what Shabbos looks like for the Ger. What Shabbos it doesn't look like for the Johnny Occam. You can start to meditate. Everybody says, I want to put up a mitzvah, or a mezuzah, Rabbi Katz. What's the first question? How does a Jew do a mitzvah? A mezuzah. What is a Jewish mezuzah? How does he? So then, what is it? What would a Ger mezuzah look like? What is the Ger element of a mezuzah? How does Johnny Occam elevate into mezuzah land as Johnny Ger? I don't know. I didn't meditate on it yet. Every mitzvah and thing is going to be unique and different. I would say it's the letter Shin on the mezuzah for repairing the world of Malchus Shaddai, which is the mission of Abraham, which is turning the world into Gerim. And with that, my friends, I tell you good night, good week. And next week, I think we're going to do Shituf, unless something else comes up in the learning. But I think we did justice this week. What do you think? I told you I was going to cross the T's and dot the I's. I hope I did my part. I researched this a good while. So, James Rogers, does this answer up some things for you?
It makes me wonder why we say Everman Hahai at all.
Well, that's the rabbinic question. It's actually the blood.
Yeah. It's almost confusing to say that. If we could just get straight to get straight to it, the whole thing, and not separating out Genesis 9 from the rest of Torah, which I think we've been trained to do.
Right. Well, I think the idea is Johnny Occam, really it's Avram Menachai. But Johnny Occam can elevate to Johnny Ger, where it's the Dinim just become fresh and whole, and it's with wisdom. Yeah. The Occam world is without wisdom. See, that's the thing. I anticipate you're going to rip the leg off a donkey and eat it, right? No wisdom. It's the Lafib Shuto shot. It's not, right? It's the cow can't give birth because 10 centimeter. You know what I'm saying? It's not it's the obvious answer, but it doesn't make it the realistic answer. The Occam in Torah is going by obvious and juvenile and ripping the leg off a donkey. Johnny Occam has every right to mingle his dinim with Din Yisrael. Din Yisrael, Rabbi Katz, has every right to elevate the Johnny Occam world into Johnny Ger. That's for Rabbi Cecil. Rabbi Cecil wants it to be Johnny Occam world, where we don't rip the legs off of donkeys. Rabbi Katz wants Johnny Occam to elevate to Johnny Ger. The Ger is in the Torah. The Occam, in this regard, really are not. The mitzvahs include the Ger every time it counts. So a person who keeps the 7 laws of Noah, halachically, is a Ger Toshav. It's just a choice. It's a matter of choice. For someone that's not choosing or doesn't yet know to choose, they're Johnny Occam, and they're going to anticipate not ripping the leg off a donkey until they know otherwise. That's what they think, and that's fine. But I have a job to teach the Torah to the nations, and that includes that the prohibition of eating the living animal for a Jew is the blood issue, and Johnny Occam's world has every right to enter that world because the Torah says the native and the ger. But it has to be a real choice, and a wise choice, and a responsible choice. Otherwise, it's Johnny Occam, and that's okay too. It's okay. You're probably not going to choose Din Yisrael on every din until you've learned about it and you know about it. So the Torah is actually merciful in the din to say it's okay to be a bit obtuse. Right? The Jews are also, I'm also, where I'm not being a trailblazer, I'm obtuse. Convert, Ger's convert. Right? And you're all goyim. That's what people think. It's a obtuse way of looking at it. It's what do you call it? Apostate view. And the Jews have to get the light too. The more we grow in navigation, Johnny Occam elevates to Johnny Ger. The more Jews become a kingdom of priests, yada yada. We know the story. We know the story. As long as we're low, we all act low. The higher we all go, the higher we all get.